the distant future, humanity had grown far beyond its humble beginnings on Earth. They had built colonies on distant planets, mined asteroids for precious resources, and constructed massive starships that could travel across galaxies. Humanity's thirst for exploration and expansion seemed unquenchable. But this rapid growth came with a price. Conflicts with other alien civilizations became inevitable. Among these conflicts, one stood out as particularly dangerous: a war with the Zorathians. The Zorathians were an ancient race, known for their advanced technology and deep connection to the stars. Their civilization stretched back thousands of years, and they considered themselves the guardians of sacred territories in space. When humanity's expanding empire encroached upon these territories, tensions rose quickly. The Zorathians accused humanity of disrespecting their heritage and violating their sacred lands. Talks broke down almost immediately, and soon, skirmishes erupted along the borders of human-controlled space. What started as small clashes escalated into a full-blown war. Both sides poured immense resources into the fight, deploying fleets of ships armed with devastating weapons. The Zorathians were cunning and resourceful, using guerrilla tactics to strike at humanity's supply lines and outposts. Humanity, on the other hand, relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers. Despite their technological superiority, humanity found itself locked in a brutal stalemate. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage, and the cost of the war began to weigh heavily on both civilizations. Amidst the chaos, the Galactic Council, a coalition of interstellar species dedicated to maintaining peace, decided it was time to intervene. The council was made up of representatives from dozens of alien races, each with their own agendas but united by a shared desire to prevent the galaxy from descending into chaos. They called an emergency summit to address the escalating violence between humanity and the Zorathians. Representatives from all corners of the galaxy gathered in a grand hall located on a neutral planet orbiting a dying star. The atmosphere was tense as diplomats whispered among themselves, speculating about what would happen next. At the center of the room stood Vren Tal, the wise elder who served as the leader of the Galactic Council. His long robes shimmered under the dim light, and his voice carried authority when he spoke. "We are here today because the galaxy cannot endure another endless war," he said gravely, addressing the assembly. "Both humanity and the Zorathians have suffered greatly. It is time to put down your weapons and seek a path to peace." Vrental's words resonated with many in the chamber. He reminded them of the destruction caused by previous galactic wars, and urged both sides to come together before more lives were lost. To demonstrate their sincerity, the council sent emissaries to deliver their message directly to humanity and the Zorathians. The emissaries traveled through hyperspace, carrying holographic recordings of Vrental's plea for peace. When they reached humanity's command center, General Elena Cruz, the fearless leader of the human fleet, was summoned to hear the council's proposal. General Cruz was a formidable figure. Her sharp eyes missed nothing, and her commanding presence inspired loyalty among her troops. She stood tall in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing maps of the contested sectors. Behind her, officers worked tirelessly, monitoring communications and analyzing data. When the emissary appeared on a large screen, delivering the council's message, the room fell silent. "We implore you to stand down," the emissary said, echoing Vrental's earlier words. "A ceasefire must be declared so that negotiations can begin. The survival of the galaxy depends on it." For a moment, no one spoke. Then, General Cruz stepped forward, her expression unreadable. She listened carefully to the council's plea, her mind racing with thoughts of strategy and consequence. Finally, she responded, not with diplomacy but with defiance. "Ceasefire?" she repeated, her voice steady and unwavering. "No, we're just warming up." Her words sent shockwaves through the council chamber. The emissary hesitated, clearly taken aback by her response. Back in the council hall, whispers erupted among the assembled delegates. Some viewed humanity's refusal to negotiate as reckless arrogance, while others saw it as a sign of strength. Could humanity truly have something up their sleeve? Or were they simply too stubborn to see reason? As news of Cruz's reply spread, throughout the galaxy reactions varied wildly. Among the Zorathians, outrage boiled over. Their high command convened an emergency meeting, debating whether humanity's defiance warranted retaliation. Some argued that humanity's confidence suggested they possessed a hidden weapon or advantage. Others dismissed it as mere bravado, believing humanity was simply trying to mask their desperation. Meanwhile, humanity's leaders huddled in secret meetings, planning their next move. General Cruz knew that the Council's call for peace was not without merit. War was costly, and every battle drained their resources further. Yet she also understood the importance of maintaining momentum. If humanity showed weakness now, the Zorathians might seize the opportunity to crush them once and for all. For Cruz, there was no room for hesitation. Humanity had fought too hard and sacrificed too much to back down now. Far away from the council chambers and war rooms, ordinary citizens watched events unfold with bated breath. On Earth, families gathered around screens to listen to broadcasts of the council's plea and humanity's defiant response. Some cheered for General Cruz's boldness, seeing her as a symbol of resilience. Others worried that her refusal to negotiate would prolong the suffering. Across the galaxy, similar debates raged. Alien species debated humanity's motives, wondering if they were witnessing the rise of a new galactic power or the beginning of its downfall. As the days passed, preparations for battle continued, on both sides. The Zorathians fortified their positions, determined to defend their sacred territories at any cost. Humanity, meanwhile, pushed forward with plans for a daring offensive. General Cruz believed that the key to victory lay not in negotiation but in action. She ordered her fleets to launch precision strikes on key Zorathian targets, aiming to weaken their resolve and force them into a corner. Yet, even as humanity prepared for war, questions lingered in the minds of those watching from afar. What would happen if humanity succeeded in defeating the Zorathians? Would they use their victory to impose their will on the galaxy? Or would they seek to rebuild and foster peace? Only time would tell. For now, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how humanity's gamble would play out. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the destiny of countless worlds, and perhaps the entire universe. And at the heart of it all stood General Elena Cruz, a woman whose determination and courage had become the embodiment of humanity's relentless spirit. After General Elena Cruz's defiant response to the Galactic Council, humanity found itself at a crossroads. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what their next move would be. While some alien species admired humanity's boldness, others whispered about arrogance and recklessness. But what no one outside humanity's inner circle knew was that their defiance wasn't empty bravado. It was backed by something far more dangerous. Back on Earth, deep within a secure underground bunker hidden beneath layers of reinforced steel and advanced shielding, General Cruz convened her top strategists. The room was dimly lit, with holographic maps of the contested sectors floating above a circular table. Officers moved around the chamber, analyzing data and updating projections in real time. Every decision made here could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. Despite the gravity of the situation, there was an air of quiet confidence among the team. They had been working on something extraordinary, something they hoped would change the course of the war. Dr. Marcus Hale, the lead scientist behind Project Eclipse, stood at the forefront of this effort. A brilliant, but unassuming, man in his late 40s, Dr. Hale had spent years leading a team of engineers and physicists in secret. Their mission? To develop a weapon so powerful that it could tip the scales decisively in humanity's favor. Known only as the quantum disruptor, the device worked by destabilizing the energy fields that powered advanced alien ships. Without these fields, even the most sophisticated vessels would become useless, adrift in the vast emptiness of space. As Dr. Hale addressed the group, his voice carried both excitement and caution. "The quantum disruptor is ready," he began, gesturing toward a schematic displayed on the wall. "But we need to understand its limitations. It requires an immense amount of energy to activate, and once used, it will take days, or possibly weeks, to recharge. This means we can only deploy it once. General Cruz listened intently, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She trusted Dr. Hale implicitly, but she also understood the stakes. Using the quantum disruptor prematurely could expose humanity's greatest advantage, leaving them vulnerable if the Zorathians adapted or retaliated before the weapon could be recharged. On the other hand, waiting too long might allow the Zorathians to gain the upper hand. Timing was everything. We'll use it as a finishing blow, Cruz declared firmly, breaking the silence. Not before then. Until we're certain we've drawn the Zorathians into position, we keep it hidden. Her decision was met with nods of approval from her advisors. Everyone in the room knew the risks, but they also understood that humanity couldn't afford to hesitate now. While preparations for the quantum disruptor continued, rumors of humanity's refusal to negotiate spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Alien diplomats speculated endlessly about what drove humanity's defiance. Some believed it stemmed from arrogance, while others suspected they were hiding a trump card, a secret weapon or strategy that gave them confidence in the face of overwhelming odds. Among the Zorathians, reactions were mixed. The High Command debated whether humanity's boldness was a sign of strength or desperation. Some argued that humanity's rapid expansion and technological advancements hinted at untapped reserves of power. Others dismissed such theories, insisting that humanity was simply overconfident and underprepared for the realities of galactic warfare. Despite their internal disagreements, one thing was clear. The Zorathians weren't willing to back down, either. Their pride, and their belief in their sacred duty to protect their territories, fueled their determination to crush humanity once and for all. In preparation for what they believed would be the final battle, the Zorathian High Command began amassing their forces near the edge of human-controlled space. Massive fleets of sleek angular ships gathered in orbit around distant moons, their weapons charged and ready. Meanwhile, humanity launched a series of calculated strikes designed to provoke the Zorathians further. These attacks targeted key supply lines and outposts, aiming to disrupt the flow of resources and intelligence. Each strike was precise, hitting critical points without causing unnecessary casualties. The goal wasn't destruction, it was provocation. Humanity wanted the Zorathians to feel cornered, to push them into making a rash decision. On the front lines, Captain Ria Torres led one such operation. A seasoned pilot with nerves of steel, Torres commanded a squadron of fast, agile fighters, known as the Shadowhawks. Their mission was to disable a Zorathian supply depot located near the edge of contested territory. As her squadron approached the target, Torres communicated with her crew through encrypted channels, ensuring everyone stayed focused. "Remember," she said over the comms, her voice calm but firm. "We hit hard and fast, then get out. No heroics." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement. The Shadowhawks swooped in low, evading detection until the last possible moment. When they struck, the attack was swift and devastating. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as cargo ships and storage facilities were destroyed. Within minutes, the mission was complete, and the squadron disappeared into the void, leaving chaos in their wake. Back at headquarters, General Cruz reviewed the results of the operation with satisfaction. The Zorathians were growing increasingly, desperate exactly as planned. Reports indicated that their high command was scrambling to respond, consolidating their forces in anticipation of a larger assault. Little did they know, humanity was laying a trap, one that would soon ensnare their entire fleet. As the days turned into weeks, tension mounted on both sides. Humanity's leaders worked tirelessly to ensure every detail of their plan was flawless. Engineers fine-tuned the quantum disruptor, running simulations to account for every possible scenario. Strategists mapped out contingencies, preparing for any unexpected moves by the Zorathians. At the same time, misinformation campaigns were launched to mislead the enemy. False intelligence suggested that humanity's flagship, the Aegis, was vulnerable and stationed near the border of contested space. The bait was set, and the Zorathians took the lure. Unbeknownst to the Zorathians, humanity had chosen the perfect location for the ambush. A remote sector of space filled with dense asteroid fields and magnetic anomalies created natural interference that masked the presence of the quantum disruptor. Any fleet entering this region would find themselves trapped, unable to maneuver effectively once the weapon was activated. It was a gamble, but one that General Cruz believed would pay off. As the final pieces fell into place, humanity braced itself for the coming storm. Soldiers prepared their equipment, pilots ran drills, and civilians prayed for victory. Across the galaxy, whispers of humanity's secret weapon grew louder, though few dared to speak openly about it. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just the fate of two civilizations, but the balance of power in the galaxy. In the end, humanity's greatest strength wasn't just their technology or their tactics, it was their unity. From the highest-ranking general to the youngest recruit, everyone shared a common purpose: survival. And as the countdown to the decisive battle began, one thing was certain. Humanity wasn't fighting just to win. They were fighting to redefine their place in the stars. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's plan unfolded. The Zorathians, driven by pride and desperation, had taken the bait. Their massive fleet, thousands of sleek, angular ships bristling with weapons, was now en route to the remote sector of space where humanity had laid their trap. General Elena Cruz watched the unfolding events from her command center aboard the Aegis, humanity's flagship. Her sharp eyes scanned the holographic displays that floated above the war room table, tracking every movement of the enemy fleet. Around her, officers worked tirelessly, relaying updates and adjusting strategies in real time. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Everyone knew what was at stake. If this gamble succeeded, humanity would gain the upper hand in the war. But if it failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. There would be no second chances. Dr. Marcus Hale stood nearby, his face pale but determined. He had spent years developing the quantum disruptor, and now it was time to see if his creation could live up to its promise. The device had been transported to a hidden outpost within the targeted sector, camouflaged among the asteroids and debris. It was ready to be activated, but only when the Zorathians were fully inside the kill zone. As the Zorathian fleet approached, humanity executed the first phase of their plan. Smaller squadrons of human ships launched precision strikes on the edges of the enemy formation, drawing them deeper into the trap. These attacks were not meant to destroy but to provoke. Each strike forced the Zorathians to consolidate their forces, funneling them closer to the waiting quantum disruptor. Captain Ria Torres led one of these diversionary missions. Her squadron, the Shadowhawks, darted through the void like streaks of lightning, striking quickly and retreating before the Zorathians could counterattack. "Keep it clean," she reminded her team over the comms. "We're here to distract, not engage." Her voice was calm, masking the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The Zorathians, unaware they were walking into a trap, interpreted these maneuvers as signs of weakness. Their high command believed humanity was trying to delay the inevitable, a full-scale assault that would crush their resistance once and for all. Emboldened by this belief, they pressed forward, eager to deliver the killing blow. Back on the Aegis, General Cruz monitored the situation closely. She knew the success of the operation depended on perfect timing. Activating the quantum disruptor too early would allow the Zorathians to retreat or regroup. Waiting too long risked exposing humanity's forces to unnecessary danger. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, the moment arrived. The Zorathian fleet had entered the designated sector, surrounded by dense asteroid fields and magnetic anomalies that limited their mobility. On Cruz's command, Dr. Hale initiated the activation sequence for the quantum disruptor. "This is it," he muttered under his breath, his hands trembling slightly as he input the final commands. For a brief moment, nothing happened. The Zorathian ships continued moving, their engines glowing brightly against the dark expanse of space. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. The energy fields that powered the Zorathian vessels flickered and died. plunging thousands of ships into darkness. Communication channels went silent as panicked voices tried and failed to coordinate a response. The once mighty fleet was now adrift, helpless in the vast emptiness of space. General Cruz allowed herself a small smile as she watched the reports flood in. "It worked," she said quietly, her voice tinged with both relief and satisfaction. Around her, officers exchanged triumphant glances, though they remained disciplined, knowing the battle wasn't over yet. Humanity's forces moved in swiftly, surrounding the disabled Zorathian fleet. Smaller ships deployed boarding parties to secure key vessels, while larger cruisers positioned themselves strategically to prevent any escape attempts. The message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. On board one of the stranded Zorathian ships, Commander Kylvor stared at the monitors in disbelief. His people had always prided themselves on their technological superiority and tactical brilliance. Yet here they were, defeated by a weapon they couldn't have anticipated. His mind raced with questions. How had humanity developed such a device? Why hadn't their intelligence detected it earlier? Kylvor's thoughts were interrupted by a transmission from the Aegis. General Cruz's face appeared on the screen, her expression stern but composed. "Commander," she began, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Your fleet is disabled. You are surrounded and resistance is futile. Surrender now, or we will open fire." Kylvor clenched his fists, his pride warring with the reality of their situation. He glanced at his crew, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded reluctantly. "We surrender," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. The transmission ended, and moments later, the Zorathian fleet broadcast a universal signal indicating their compliance. As news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, reactions varied wildly. Among humanity's allies, cheers erupted. Soldiers celebrated, civilians rejoiced, and even some alien species who had doubted humanity's resolve began to view them in a new light. The Galactic Council, however, remained cautious. While they acknowledged humanity's triumph, many wondered what this victory meant for the future of interstellar relations. For General Cruz, the immediate challenge was deciding how to handle the defeated Zorathians. Some members of her council argued for harsh terms, suggesting that humanity should seize control of Zorathian territories as reparations. Others urged restraint, warning that punishing the Zorathians too severely could breed resentment and spark another conflict down the line. Cruz listened carefully to both sides before making her decision. "We fight not out of hatred, but out of necessity," she told her advisors. "Our goal is peace, not domination. Let us show the galaxy that humanity is capable of mercy, as well as strength." With that, she issued orders to treat the Zorathian prisoners with dignity and respect. Medical supplies and food were distributed to those in need, and efforts were made to repair damaged ships so they could return home safely. These gestures did not go unnoticed. Even among the Zorathians, whispers of gratitude began to circulate. For the first time in years, there was hope that the cycle of violence might finally come to an end. Yet, as the galaxy celebrated humanity's victory, questions lingered about what came next. The quantum disruptor had proven itself to be a game-changer, but its existence raised concerns about the balance of power in the galaxy. Would other civilizations attempt to develop similar weapons? Could humanity trust its rivals to abide by the rules of engagement? For now, though, humanity basked in the glow of their hard-fought triumph. Soldiers returned home to heroes' welcomes, their stories inspiring a new generation of explorers and defenders. Scientists and engineers were hailed as visionaries, their innovations reshaping the boundaries of what was possible, and General Cruz became a symbol of humanity's resilience, a leader whose courage and determination had turned the tide of a seemingly unwinnable war. But even as celebrations unfolded, humanity's leaders knew the galaxy was far from stable. Old rivalries still simmered beneath the surface, and new challenges loomed on the horizon. The stars twinkled in the endless void, each one representing a world, a civilization, or a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Humanity's journey was far from over, and the choices they made in the coming days would shape the destiny of countless lives. In the quiet moments after the battle, as the dust settled and the galaxy took stock of what had transpired, one truth became undeniable. Humanity had proven itself to be more than just survivors. They were innovators, strategists, and dreamers. And as they looked toward the future, they carried with them the lessons of the past, knowing that their greatest strength lay not in their weapons but in their unity. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in a state of shock. Humanity's victory over the Zorathians was unprecedented, a decisive blow that had crippled their once mighty fleet and shattered their morale. For the first time in years, the stars seemed quieter, as if holding their breath to see what would happen next. The Galactic Council convened another emergency summit, this time under very different circumstances. The council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss the implications of humanity's triumph. Vrental, the wise elder who led the council, stood at the center of the room. His long robes shimmered faintly under the dim light, and his voice carried a weight that silenced the murmurs of the assembly. "We are here today because humanity has demonstrated its power," he began, his tone measured but firm. "But power alone does not guarantee peace. What we must decide now is whether humanity will use this moment to unite us or divide us further." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some viewed humanity's actions as reckless, fearing that their newfound dominance might lead to tyranny. Others saw an opportunity for cooperation, hoping that humanity would rise to the occasion and help rebuild the fractured galaxy. Alien diplomats whispered among themselves, speculating about humanity's intentions. Would they seek revenge for the destruction caused during the war, or would they extend a hand of friendship? Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis, General Elena Cruz and her advisors prepared for the next phase of their strategy. The immediate threat of the Zorathian fleet had been neutralized, but the broader conflict was far from resolved. Cruz knew that how humanity handled the post-war period would define their legacy in the galaxy. She called a meeting with her top strategists, including Dr. Marcus Hale, to discuss the path forward. "We've won the battle, but the war isn't truly over," Cruz said, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "Our actions now will determine whether we earn the trust of the galaxy or become its greatest fear." Dr. Hale nodded in agreement. The quantum disruptor proved effective, but it also made us a target. Other civilizations will either fear us or try to replicate our technology. We need to act carefully. Cruz listened intently, weighing every word. After a moment of silence, she turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Let them know we're ready to negotiate, but on our terms." The message sent ripples through the council chamber. Humanity's willingness to engage in diplomacy was unexpected, especially after their earlier defiance. Vrental addressed the assembly once more, his expression thoughtful. "Humanity has shown that they are capable of both strength and restraint. Perhaps there is hope for peace after all." As negotiations began, humanity faced tough questions from the Council and other alien species. Many demanded guarantees that the quantum disruptor would never be used again. Others pressed for reparations, arguing that humanity's aggressive tactics had caused widespread destruction. Cruz listened patiently, her demeanor calm but resolute. "We developed the quantum disruptor out of necessity, not malice," she explained. "It was a tool to protect our people and ensure our survival. As for reparations, we are willing to assist in rebuilding what was lost, but only if it leads to lasting peace." Her words resonated with some, though skepticism remained. To demonstrate their sincerity, humanity dismantled the quantum disruptor, sealing away its secrets in a secure vault deep beneath Earth's surface. The decision was controversial among humanity's own ranks, with some arguing that destroying the weapon was premature. But Cruz believed it was necessary to send a clear message. Humanity sought peace, not domination. At the same time, efforts were made to repair relations with the Zorathians. Despite their defeat, the Zorathian High Command remained proud and defiant. Commander Vor, who had surrendered during the battle, was invited to participate in the negotiations. His presence was met with mixed reactions. Some saw him as a symbol of reconciliation, while others viewed him as a relic of a failed regime. During one heated session, Vor addressed the council, his voice steady despite the weight of his people's losses. "The Zorathians have always valued honor above all else," he said. "We may have been defeated, but we are not broken. If humanity seeks peace, let them prove it by treating us as equals, not as conquered foes." Cruz acknowledged his words with a nod. "Equality is not given, it is earned," she replied. "But we are willing to take the first step. Humanity will provide aid to rebuild your worlds and restore your fleets. In return, we ask for your cooperation in maintaining stability in the galaxy." The offer caught many by surprise, including Vor. For a moment, he hesitated, then bowed his head slightly in acknowledgement. "We accept your terms, for now." While the negotiations continued, humanity's leaders worked to address the concerns of other alien species. They proposed forming a new alliance, one that would include representatives from all major civilizations. The goal was to create a framework for resolving disputes peacefully, preventing future conflicts from escalating into full-scale wars. The idea gained traction among the council members, though some remained wary of humanity's influence. Back on Earth, civilians watched the unfolding events with a mix of pride and apprehension. News broadcasts showed images of damaged Zorathian ships being repaired, alien diplomats shaking hands with human officials, and construction projects underway on distant planets. Families gathered around screens, discussing what these developments meant for the future. Some cheered for humanity's leadership, seeing it as a sign of hope. Others worried that the galaxy's fragile peace might collapse under the weight of unresolved tensions. Amidst the diplomatic efforts, Captain Ria Torres returned to active duty, leading patrols along the borders of human-controlled space. Her squadron, the Shadowhawks, had played a crucial role in the battle, and their reputation had grown throughout the galaxy. As she flew through the void, Torres reflected on the sacrifices that had brought them to this point. War had taken its toll, not just on soldiers but on entire civilizations. One day, while patrolling near a remote asteroid field, Torres received an unexpected transmission. It came from a small Zorathian ship, its engines sputtering and its crew clearly in distress. At first, her instincts told her to ignore it. After everything the Zorathians had done, why should humanity help them now? But something in her gut told her otherwise. "Shadowhawks, hold position," she ordered. "Let's see what they want." The Zorathian pilot appeared on her screen, his face gaunt and weary. "Please," he said, his voice trembling. "Our ship is failing. We have children on board. Help us." Torres hesitated for a moment, then gave the order to dock with the Zorathian vessel. Her team boarded the ship and found a group of frightened civilians huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. Among them were several children, clinging to their parents. Torres felt a pang of empathy as she looked at them. These weren't soldiers or commanders. They were victims of a war they hadn't chosen. "Get them aboard," she instructed her crew. "We'll take them to the nearest outpost." The rescue mission became a turning point in humanity's relationship with the Zorathians. When news of Torres's actions reached the council, it sparked a wave of goodwill. Even Vor expressed gratitude, acknowledging that humanity's compassion had helped mend some of the wounds caused by the war. As weeks turned into months, the galaxy began to heal. Broken alliances were rebuilt, and new partnerships emerged. Humanity's role as a galactic power was cemented, but it came with responsibilities. Leaders like General Cruz understood that maintaining peace required constant vigilance and compromise. There would always be challenges, new rivalries, emerging threats, and unforeseen crises. But humanity had proven that it could adapt and endure. Yet even as the galaxy moved forward, whispers of uncertainty lingered. The quantum disruptor may have been dismantled, but its legacy lived on. Other civilizations quietly began researching similar technologies, driven by fear of humanity's capabilities. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, unknown forces stirred, watching and waiting for their moment to strike. For now, though, humanity stood tall among the stars, their courage and ingenuity earning them a place in history. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, not just in battle but in their pursuit of a better future. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's journey was far from over. The galaxy was changing. Humanity's victory over the Zorathians had not only reshaped the balance of power, but also forced every civilization to reconsider their place in the cosmos. The war had been brutal, leaving scars on planets, ships, and hearts. Yet out of the ashes of destruction, something new began to emerge, a fragile but hopeful vision of peace. It was a vision that humanity, despite its flaws and mistakes, had chosen to champion. General Elena Cruz stood on the observation deck of the Yegas, gazing out at the stars. The ship was docked near a massive orbital station where delegates from across the galaxy had gathered for the signing of a historic treaty. This document, known as the Accord of Unity, marked the official end of hostilities between humanity and the Zorathians. More importantly, it laid the foundation for a new era of cooperation among all interstellar species. Cruz's mind wandered back to the early days of the war, the sleepless nights spent strategizing, the lives lost in battles, and the weight of decisions that had shaped humanity's destiny. She remembered the moment she first activated the quantum disruptor, knowing it would change everything. Now, as she watched diplomats shake hands and exchange cautious smiles, she felt a sense of pride, but also caution. Peace was never guaranteed. It had to be nurtured, protected, and earned every single day. Inside the grand hall of the orbital station, representatives from dozens of alien races sat around a circular table. Vrental, the wise elder who led the Galactic Council, presided over the ceremony. His voice carried authority as he addressed the assembly. "Today we take a step toward healing," he said, his eyes scanning the room. "This accord is not just a piece of paper, it is a promise to work together, to resolve conflicts, through dialogue rather than violence, and to build a future where no civilization stands alone." As the treaty was signed, cameras captured the moment for billions of viewers across the galaxy. On Earth, families gathered around screens, watching as humanity formally committed to this new path. Some cheered, while others remained skeptical, wondering if such ideals could truly withstand the test of time. But for many, it was a moment of hope, a chance to imagine a better tomorrow. Commander Calvor, once the proud leader of the Zorathian fleet, now found himself in an unfamiliar role, that of a peacemaker. After surrendering during the climactic battle, he had returned to his people, carrying with him the lessons of defeat. Though some Zorathians still viewed him with suspicion, others saw his willingness to embrace diplomacy as a sign of strength. Standing beside General Cruz during the signing ceremony, Calvor felt a mix of emotions: pride, regret, and determination. "Your people have shown great courage," Cruz said to him quietly, as they prepared to leave the stage. "I believe we can learn much from each other." Calvor nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Perhaps. But trust must be earned, not given freely. Let us prove ourselves worthy of this peace." Back on Earth, life slowly began to return to normal, or at least what passed for normal in a post-war galaxy. Soldiers returned home to parades and celebrations, their stories inspiring a new generation of explorers and defenders. Cities rebuilt their damaged infrastructure, and schools reopened their doors, teaching children about the importance of unity and cooperation. Yet, beneath the surface, questions lingered. What did humanity's newfound dominance mean for the future? Could they avoid repeating the mistakes of the past? Dr. Marcus Hale, the brilliant scientist behind the quantum disruptor, struggled with his own doubts. Though the weapon had been dismantled, its existence haunted him. He often wondered whether humanity had crossed a line by creating such a device. Late at night, as he stared at the stars from his laboratory window, he thought about the countless lives that had been saved and the potential dangers that still lurked in the shadows. One evening, as he reviewed data from recent scientific advancements, a young assistant approached him. "Dr. Hale," she said hesitantly, "do you think we'll ever see another war like this?" Hale paused, considering her question. "War is part of who we are," he replied finally. "But so is peace. The key is finding a way to balance the two, to use our knowledge and technology for good instead of harm." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Alien leaders debated how to prevent future conflicts, while ordinary citizens tried to rebuild their lives. The Accord of Unity was a start, but everyone knew it wasn't enough. Trust took years to build and seconds to destroy. Humanity's actions in the coming months and years would determine whether the treaty became a lasting legacy or just another chapter in the endless cycle of war and peace. Meanwhile, Captain Ria Torres continued her patrols along the borders of human-controlled space. Her squadron, the Shadowhawks, had become symbols of humanity's resilience and compassion. The rescue mission that had saved the Zorathian civilians had earned her widespread admiration, both within humanity and among other species. Yet, despite the accolades, Torres remained humble. "Heroes aren't made in battle," she told her crew during one briefing. "They're made in moments of choice, when you decide to do the right thing, even when it's hard." Her words resonated deeply with her team, reminding them of why they fought. For Torres, the war had taught her that victory wasn't measured in destroyed ships or conquered territories. It was measured in lives saved, bridges built, and futures secured. As the months passed, humanity's influence in the galaxy grew. They established trade routes with former enemies, shared technological advancements with allies, and contributed resources to rebuilding devastated worlds. Their efforts earned them respect, and sometimes envy, from other civilizations. Some alien species admired humanity's adaptability and ambition, while others feared their rapid rise to power. Yet amid these challenges, humanity also faced internal struggles. Debates raged about how to allocate resources, whether to expand further into uncharted space, and how to address lingering tensions with the Zorathians. Leaders like General Cruz understood that unity required compromise and understanding. She worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity's policies reflected their values of cooperation, innovation, and resilience. One day, as Cruz attended a meeting with the Galactic Council, she received an unexpected message. A distant star system previously unknown to any civilization had sent out a distress signal. Initial scans suggested it was inhabited by an intelligent species, one that had yet to make contact with the rest of the galaxy. The discovery sparked excitement and concern. Would this new encounter lead to friendship or conflict? Cruz volunteered to lead the expedition, seeing it as an opportunity to demonstrate humanity's commitment to peaceful exploration. As she prepared for the journey, she reflected on how far they had come. From a fledgling species struggling to survive on a single planet, humanity had grown into a galactic power capable of shaping the destiny of countless worlds. The stars twinkled in the endless void, each one representing a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Humanity's story was far from over. There would always be challenges, new rivals, emerging threats, and unforeseen crises, but they had proven time and again that they could face them head-on. As the Aegis departed for the unknown star system, Cruz stood on the bridge, her heart filled with both anticipation and resolve. "We've come a long way," she said to her crew. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." And with that, humanity sailed into the vast expanse of space, ready to write the next chapter of their journey among the stars.